Hello and welcome to Fowl Plays, where we look at tales of tabletop tragedy that are sure to ruffle some feathers. I'm your host, Boss Goose, and in today's story, we have a DM who can't understand why a player doesn't feel comfortable having their character enslaved by a godlike being just because of backstory elements the DM themselves had added. Deciding that the best course of action is to have an encounter with no hope of victory or escape in order to railroad the player into accepting the decision and losing their character's free will. So take your seats and wet your beaks as we dive on into today's tale. So, I had a DM for about 2 years who was kind of a wreck, but I stuck around because I thought she was my friend. I have many stories about her, and here's one of them. So this DM, we'll call her Tanya, not her real name, was queen of homebrew and making her own world and lore and prophecies. God, did she love prophecies. So she took my fairly normal character with a whole backstory and made it so that her father was the immortal Jinn of Fire and her mother a demigod of fire. Okay, cool, a little Mary Sue-esque, but whatever. My character was an orphan, so I guess her parents were the DM's prerogative. That's not what I had a problem with. Anyway, incredibly borked campaign things happen, and then we stumble across my character's storyline. So we go to a village, discover that the people she knew once upon a time now really hate her for no real reason, and have teamed up with a god dragon. One who hates my character specifically because of the backstory that my DM had given me. Okay, sure. We're gearing up to go face him as a bunch of level 11s, but we're trying to prepare for it the best that we can because, well, he's a god. We are apparently moving too slow for the DM though, because they decide to press the issue. Our paladin is cornered alone by the god dragon's minion. Tanya asks the paladin to make a con save, and he rolls a 23, and he fails, and passes out completely and is kidnapped. So the issue has been forced. We run after this kidnapper who is too fast to be believed, who escapes via DM hand-waving, and we get to the cave where our god dragon is hiding. We go inside very, very cautiously, and find the god dragon stood at the back of the cave with my former mentor in chains and in a magic circle that is clearly a trap. I stand 120 feet away because I'm not an idiot, and I'm a pew-pew warlock. Tanya tries to do a BBEG speech to convince my character to become his slave in order to usurp the gods. Now, it's worth mentioning that my character is the only black PC, and this is all in extremely poor taste. I don't think it was intentional, I think she just forgot how it would look. Anyway, we talk to our dragon god, and he argues back and forth with my character. He insists he isn't holding anyone hostage, but then he refuses to let the paladin or my mentor go. He says he'll let us leave, but then he says that we can't. I begin to realize the circular nature of the conversation stems from the fact that the DM hadn't actually planned anything to happen if I didn't step in her clearly obvious trap. She had no way to progress unless I stepped into the trap. After 30 IRL minutes of back and forth between me and the DM, I decided to just step into the trap. I was already dying slowly anyway, metaphorically. Well, the trap turns out to be an inescapable force cage, but not actually the spell force cage, that has none of the usual caveats of a force cage, and that is immune to dispel magic for some reason. Tanya says the dragon god is ritual casting something, and we have to break his concentration. So we try, despite the entire room not allowing us to use offensive magic. The DM gets really mad that my warlock with only 2 spell slots isn't doing more to help, in the situation she designed so that I would be helpless. We somehow managed to break out through a chain reaction of counterspells that ran 5 people long. We're free? Nope, because the paladin has had his entire alignment changed by a single spell, and the bard has been banished. And that's when she pulled out the, "Oh, I forgot he's immune to spells of level 5 and under." I point out we only have level 5 spells, and she says in the snottiest voice ever, "I know that." Which leads me to wonder what we were supposed to do. We tried to diplomacy our way out, but we weren't allowed. We tried to fight our way out, but that also wasn't allowed. I asked her what would have happened if he had completed his ritual, and she explained that my character would have become his slave and had my free will taken away, and that she didn't see what the problem was. This was the last straw for me and half the party. We all left, and then a few months later, she lost the rest of the party. TLDR, DM wants to enslave my character through any means necessary and doesn't see why I might not be cool with that. This story is uncomfortable to say the least. I don't know anything about who OP is out of character, so I can't say if there were any out-of-game factors at play here, but at least as far as the characters go, it seems like an odd choice to specifically target the only African American PC in the group with slavery. Maybe if OP had written in their backstory that they were a former slave who had escaped, or if the bad guy was targeting the entire party, I would understand the reasoning, but the only reasons seem to have come from the background elements that the DM themselves had written and given to the player. I wouldn't say I'm really qualified for a deep dive into this subject matter, but reading this certainly made me cringe, and the thought of sitting at a table where this happened, not great. Let's talk about the encounter too, because that was not very well designed. First, they forced the party, who was trying to prepare, into the encounter by kidnapping one of their members, then setting an obvious trap and not letting the plot progress despite the player's attempts to negotiate or use diplomacy, until finally they trigger said trap and have to fight an enemy who's immune to any spells 5th level or below, when at most a group of level 11s might have 1 or 2 6th level spells between them. Not great. And all of this so you could force the situation and take away OP's character does not sound like a fun game to me. If that was the bad guy's plan, fine. And they didn't have to be able to win the encounter, but it shouldn't have been impossible. There should have at least been other ways to resolve things through either ingenuity, negotiation, or running away. Even if they still end up failing, at least there was a chance, and the DM probably wouldn't have lost half the group because of it. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video and sticking through till the end. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I upload new content every Thursday and Sunday, so make sure you check out my channel for more D&D stories. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave me a goosebump in the comments below. And big thanks to those of you who have already subscribed and liked my videos. It really helps motivate me to keep on going. But until next time, be good players.